All right.
All right. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about, I have meditation questions for you, but you came to me because you wanted to talk about, I forget.
Reconsidering spiritual direction.
You wanted to talk about
companionship.
reconsidering spiritual direction and companionship. So what do you mean by that?
I don't remember. Well, what I mean by that in the broadest sense is that a modality that deals with the great beyond is open to constant reconsideration because there's so many different portals and so many different entry points and exit points in and out of this modality. And that makes it very rich, and it's also, I think, quite important that we not settle into predictable patterns, as in, we try to define what spiritual direction and spiritual companionship is, which is a worthy exercise. But if we're not careful, we're going, only spiritual directors and spiritual companions who do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are worthy of the name. And that's not true, and yet there are authentic, common elements to our practice, to the practice of our calling, that need to remain. But they're not as fixed as we sometimes think they are. So I think that's where I was going with reconsidering spiritual direction and spiritual companionship, and I would say on an ongoing basis and probably an unending basis.
Okay, so just to frame it, I think the typical way we think about spiritual companionship, and you can correct me all along here, one-on-one relationship, the listening companion is there to, and this is a term that is a little bit fraught, but holding space.
Yes.
Holding space for somebody to share their deepest self.
Yes.
And for most of our members, that is a vocational calling. Mm-hmm. They may operate an office or see clients over Zoom. So, I mean, we've talked and we presented people who have different alternative modalities for doing that. But is that what you're getting at? That there are just other
Yes, and to paraphrase someone close to me, and the end is, you mentioned listening, right? We always talk about deep listening being, a foundational pillar of this practice. And I'd say it's more than just a vocation. It's a spiritual avocation. It's a spiritual calling, right? Mm-hmm. So I started thinking about that, a couple of months back. Is it just deep listening? And then I started thinking about, and I started writing about this for an upcoming version of one of our publications, the difference between listening and hearing. Right? Are we just listening in kind of a passive way? And of course, we always qualify deep listening by saying it's active listening, right? But are we really hearing what the other person is saying? Uh-huh. And there's a difference between listening and hearing, right?
Yes.
You can listen and not understand. You can listen and in a kind of peremptory way, whereas hearing doesn't necessarily mean agreement, but it means that I really hear what you're saying to me. And I think in a spiritual companionship, spiritual direction relationship, that deeper hearing is really what we're going for. And of course, it's tied to listening.
So this is fascinating because, I'm thinking back to high school French, right? Like the term écouter means to listen. The term entendre means to hear.
To understand.
Okay, so that's interesting because I always thought of listening as the understanding part, the comprehension, whereas the hearing is more of the ears are picking up sound.
Yeah, and these are the issues with language. It depends where you're coming from, right? For me, it's kind of, are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Are you hearing me means, are you really understanding what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Can you really get inside, can you develop enough intimacy with me that you really hear what I'm saying to you? Mm-hmm. As opposed to just listening and witnessing, which is also so important, and they are inseparably tied to respecting agency, which is the other thing you just mentioned. And yet, if we have an intimate relationship, we have agency together, right? I mean, your agency changes, my agency changes yours, and yours changes mine, right? The interaction between us becomes its own dynamic, a common dynamic. It doesn't mean that I don't respect the primacy of supporting you in this relationship as your companion, because I think that's not in question. But it's kind of like a chemical or alchemical formula. There's just this blending of elements. Well, so I guess what I'm suggesting is there's more subtlety and complexity in these relationships, spiritual companion relationships, than we sometimes want to let on.